In this video tutorial, I introduced trophic levels. We're going to look at feeding relationships in ecosystems. So we're going to look at the key terms producers, consumers, and decomposers. We'll also look at food chains and food webs, as well as pyramids of numbers, biomass, and energy transfer. So first of all, to define some of these key terms. A producer, first of all, is an organism that produces their own organic nutrients. So, for example, a plant produces glucose via photosynthesis. Secondly, the primary consumer. Primary consumers are herbivores that feed on plants, i.e., they feed on the producer. Secondary consumers are predators that feed on primary consumers. And tertiary consumers are predators that feed on secondary consumers. So in the example that's shown on the slide in front of you, the flower is the producer as it produces its own organic nutrients, glucose, via photosynthesis. As the flowers, the producers, are eaten by the snails are therefore the primary consumer. The snails are then eaten by the frogs, so the frogs are therefore the secondary consumer, and the frogs are then eaten by the fox, and therefore the foxes are the tertiary consumers at the top of the food chain. We also have decomposers, which are organisms that release digestive enzymes on dead organisms or non-living organic matter for energy. Now, in the diagram I showed you a moment ago, we were looking at a food chain, but food webs show how food chains are linked together into more complex feeding relationships. Obviously, it's very, very rare that you have a single producer being eaten by a single species of primary consumer, which is eaten by a single species of secondary consumer, which is eaten by a single species of tertiary consumer. In reality, we have lots of different food chains interlinked. So, for example, here we've got leaf litter being eaten by earthworms, which are being eaten by shrews, which are being eaten by owls, as well as the oak tree being sort of consumed by squirrels, which then sort of in turn being consumed by foxes. And we've also got the oak tree being consumed by caterpillars, which are being consumed by shrews, which are being consumed by owls. So a whole web of different relationships. Now, one way of describing this is interdependence. So food webs show the interdependence between organisms. The change in population of one organism will affect the population of other organisms. So if the population of earthworms decrease, then the population of wood mouse may decrease as well, as they will have less earthworms to feed on, leading to starvation and death. If the population of shrews increase, the population of owls may increase as well, as they will have more shrews to feed on, increasing their chances of survival. This diagram here shows a pyramid of numbers. Now, this shows the population of each organism at each trophic level in the food chain. So in the diagram, the bars represent the population size of the organism at each trophic level. So the wider the bar, the larger the population size. As energy is lost to the surroundings from one trophic level to the next, there are usually fewer organisms with each trophic level due to decreasing chances of survival. However, some diagrams may not resemble a pyramid, as one larger producer, for example, the oak tree, may feed many smaller consumers, for example, the insects. Now here we have a pyramid of biomass. This shows the biomass, so that's the amount of living material, of organisms in each trophic level. Now, in the diagram, the bars represent the biomass of a population of organisms, and that is calculated by multiplying the number of individual biomass of each individual by the population size. Now, pyramids of biomass will commonly be upright in shape, as the amount of food available, so the amount of biomass, decreases with each trophic level as energy may be lost via respiration, or you might have incomplete digestion, or you have things like excretion or egestion. And finally, here is a pyramid of energy transfer. Now, this just shows the transfer of energy with each trophic level. In the diagram, the bar shows the amount of energy available for the next trophic level. As energy is lost via respiration, incomplete digestion, or excretion and egestion, only about 10% of energy is actually passed on from one trophic level to the next. As a result, this limits the trophic levels in the food chain to a maximum of about 4 trophic levels.